I used to think that I was naturally bad at certain things until I read a book that completely rewired how my brain processes challenges. Now I can tell you exactly which 9 books will do the same for you and break your mental limits. Here's what happened. When I would face challenges in school, I was struggling with a fixed mindset. I'd give up too easily when things didn't come so easily to me with what I was trying to learn in school. If it didn't come naturally to me or I felt stuck, I would just give up. Over the past 15 years, I've read a lot of self help books, but only a few have stood the test of time for me. This collection of books that we're going to go through doesn't just motivate you, they actually change how your mind works. Here's something that might surprise you. The biggest barrier to your growth isn't lack of talent or opportunity. It's something that Carol Dweck discovered in her research that most people don't even realize they have. Most of us walk around with an invisible mental programming that decides what we can and can't do before we even bother trying. This programming comes from 2 fundamentally different ways our brains process challenges and setbacks. What's shocking is that people with less natural ability often outperform those with more talent, and the difference comes down to a single belief about whether your abilities are fixed or can grow. When you believe your intelligence is fixed, your brain literally shuts down when facing difficult challenges because failure threatens your identity. Your mind treats every mistake as proof that you're not smart enough or talented enough, so it grinds you to a halt, trying to protect your self image. But when you shift to a growth mindset, failure becomes data instead of a verdict, and your brain stays engaged even when things get hard. Here's how this works in practice. Growth mindset people use phrases like, I can't do this yet, while fixed mindset people say, I'm just not good at this. That one word makes all the difference because it allows your brain to keep looking for solutions instead of shutting down. When you say yet, or when you think about how you can continue to grow and see the opportunities from these challenges, it allows you to develop this growth mindset. And so the growth mindset recognizes the abilities developed through effort and learning, while fixed mindsets assume that our abilities are static and unchangeable. Students with a growth mindset tend to embrace challenges, learn from mistakes, and view effort as a path to mastery, leading to higher academic achievement and overall well-being. They see difficult tasks as opportunities to improve rather than threats to their self-worth. When they encounter setbacks, they ask what they can learn from the experience instead of taking it as a confirmation of their limitations. This approach creates a completely different relationship with failure that actually accelerates learning and improvement. So when I read Mindset by Carol Dweck for the first time, it absolutely changed my perspective on facing challenges and giving up too soon when I perceived failures. The other book that has taken this even further is Think Again by Adam Grant. He showed that intellectual humility, being willing to admit that you're wrong, is actually a superpower in disguise. Grant's research reveals that people who actively question their beliefs and change their minds when presented with evidence are more successful in almost every area of life. The willingness to question your beliefs and adapt to new evidence becomes a key factor in success across various personal and professional situations. Most people see changing their mind as a weakness, but Grant shows it's actually a strength that leads to better decision making and continuous improvement. What I really like about combining these 2 approaches is how they build on each other. The growth mindset gives you the foundation to embrace challenges, while intellectual humility keeps you open to new information that can improve your performance. Together, they create a system that gets stronger over time instead of hitting plateaus like most people experience. The first step to rewiring your mind is catching yourself in a fixed mindset and adding one word, yet, which literally changes how your brain processes that challenge. This foundation of believing you can improve sets the stage for everything else, because without it, none of the other strategies will stick when things get difficult. Once you master this shift in thinking, you're ready for the next level of mental rewiring. Angela Duckworth spent years studying why some people achieve extraordinary things while others with more natural ability fall short. And what she found challenges everything we think we know about success. At West Point Military Academy, Duckworth discovered that the cadets that made it through the brutal training weren't the smartest or strongest. They were the ones who scored highest on something completely different. She developed a measurement tool that could predict who would succeed better than SAT scores, leadership ratings, or physical fitness tests. What she wasn't measuring was intelligence or athleticism, but a quality she called grit. Her research across spelling bee champions, salespeople, and athletes revealed that talent actually becomes less important the higher you go, which seems to contradict everything we thought we knew about natural ability. When Duckworth tracked spelling bee contestants over multiple years, she found that the winners weren't the kids with the highest verbal IQ scores. Instead, the champions were the ones who spent more hours practicing and had been competing for more years. The same pattern shows up when she studied sales teams. The top performers weren't necessarily the most charismatic or naturally gifted at persuasion, but the ones who made more calls and stuck with difficult prospects longer. What matters more is grit, that combination of passion and perseverance towards long-term goals. And Duckworth found that you can measure and develop this quality. Grit consists of two main components that work together to create sustained achievement. The first is consistency of interests, which means sticking with the same general area or goal over time rather than constantly switching directions. The second is perseverance of effort, which involves maintaining hard work and determination despite difficulties or slow progress. When these two elements combine, they create a powerful force that can overcome natural talent gaps. The gritty people in her studies had a specific way of thinking about setbacks. They saw them as temporary and specific rather than permanent and personal. When faced with obstacles or failures, they would analyze what went wrong and adjust their approach rather than questioning their fundamental abilities to succeed. This mindset shift also allows them to maintain their motivation and continue to work towards their goals even when progress feels slow or difficult. They understand that setbacks are a part of the learning process rather than evidence that they should quit. But here's where it gets interesting. Grit without the right approach can actually work against you, which is where Stephen Kotler's Art of the Impossible comes in handy. Kotler discovered that peak performers don't just grind through challenges, they engineer specific conditions that make the impossible feel inevitable. His writing shows that raw persistence can lead to burnout and ineffective effort if you're not setting up the right conditions for success. The key is learning how to channel your grit in ways that amplify your natural capabilities rather than just pushing harder. His research on flow states shows that when you stack motivation, forces like drive, purpose, and curiosity with learning accelerators like struggle, focus, creativity, your brain enters a state where performance increases by up to 500%. Flow represents the optimal state of human performance, where time seems to slow down and everything clicks into place. During these states, your brain releases performance-enhancing chemicals that make you feel unstoppable and think faster than normal. The key between these two books is combining Duckworth's long-term persistence with Kotler's strategic approach to creating optimal conditions for breakthrough performance. This means you're not just pushing through obstacles, you're systematically designing your environment and mental state to make progress feel natural and sustainable. Now let's talk more about the science of getting in the zone. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying people who seem to effortlessly perform at their peak, and what he discovered reveals why some people can access their best performance on demand while others struggle to find it. Those flow states and the feeling of being completely absorbed, where time seems to stop and everything clicks, isn't just a nice experience, it's actually a measurable brain state that you can learn to trigger. When you're in flow, your sense of self-consciousness completely disappears and you become one with whatever activity you're doing. Most people experience flow randomly and can't recreate it, but Csikszentmihalyi's research identified the exact conditions that make flow happen every time. The magic happens when the challenge level perfectly matches your skill level. Too easy and you're bored, and when it's too hard, you're anxious. But right in the sweet spot, your brain enters this optimal state. Here's how this works in practice. If you're learning guitar and you try to play a song that's way above your current ability, you'll get frustrated and anxious. If you play something too simple, your mind wanders and you get bored. But when you find that perfect balance where the song challenges you just enough to require your full attention without overwhelming you, that's when flow happens. Your brain locks into complete focus because it needs every bit of your attention to handle the challenge successfully. During flow, your brain releases a whole cocktail of performance-enhancing chemicals, including norepinephrine, dopamine, anandamide, serotonin, and endorphins that make you feel unstoppable and think faster. Norepinephrine boosts your focus and attention to laser-like levels. Dopamine floods your system with motivation and reward feelings that keep you engaged. And endorphins reduce any sense of pain or fatigue and create feelings of euphoria. These chemicals combine together to make you perform better than your normal baseline. It's like your brain's natural performance enhancement system. But here's what most people miss. Flow requires what Csikszentmihalyi calls clear goals and immediate feedback, which means you need to know exactly what you're trying to achieve and how you're doing moment by moment. Without clear goals, your brain doesn't know what to focus on. And without immediate feedback, you can't adjust your actions to stay in that optimal challenge zone. This is why video games are so good at creating flow. They give you clear objectives and constant feedback on your progress. You always know what you're trying to accomplish and whether you're succeeding or failing. Cal Newport's slow productivity principles actually support flow by eliminating the shallow work and distractions that prevent deep focus states. Newport's writing shows that when you reduce your commitments and create systems for deep work, you spend more time in flow-like states and produce higher quality output. One of the things that Newport emphasizes is that you can't access deep focus when you're constantly switching between tasks or dealing with interruptions. His approach in slow productivity involves strategic reduction of commitments so you can focus deeply on fewer, more meaningful projects, and you can obsess over the quality of the work that you do. You can engineer flow by carefully calibrating challenge levels, eliminating distractions, and setting up clear goals with immediate feedback loops in whatever you're working on. Start by identifying activities where you can control the difficulty level and create clear success metrics. Remove all potential distractions from your environment, turn off notifications, clear your workspace, and block out dedicated time. Set specific goals for each session and build in ways to track your progress in real time. The combination of Csikszentmihalyi's flow triggers and Newport's deep work systems creates a reliable pathway to peak performance that doesn't depend on motivation or inspiration. Steven Pressfield identified something that every creative person faces, but few understand: an invisible force that gets stronger the closer you get to your breakthrough. And learning to recognize it changes everything. Resistance shows up as procrastination, self-doubt, perfectionism, and every excuse your mind creates to avoid doing that work that matters most. And it's most powerful right before you're about to level up. You know that feeling when you sit down to work on something important and suddenly you need to check your email, clean your desk, or research just one more thing before you can start? That's resistance in action, and it's designed to keep you away from the work that will actually move you forward. What's frustrating is that resistance feels completely rational in the moment. Your mind gives you perfectly logical reasons to quit, delay, or switch to something easier. Your brain will tell you that you need more preparation, that the timing isn't right, or that you should just wait until you have more experience. These thoughts seem reasonable and protective, but they're actually the enemy of progress. Resistance operates by making you believe that there's always a better time to start or that you're not just ready yet. The problem is that resistance grows stronger as the work becomes more important to your growth. Pressfield's insights in The War of Art is that resistance is actually a compass. The stronger that it is, the more important that work is to your growth and the more that you need to push through it. Here's how this works in practice. If you feel massive resistance to writing that book, starting that business, or having that difficult conversation, it's because your brain recognizes these actions will fundamentally change who you are. The work that scares you the most is usually the work you most need to do. This reframe changes everything because instead of seeing resistance as a stop sign, you start seeing it as a map pointing towards your breakthrough. The solution is what he called a professional mindset, showing up every day regardless of how you feel and treating your important work like a job that you can't skip. Professionals don't wait for inspiration and motivation. They have systems and routines that get them working even when they don't feel like it. A writer sits down at the same time every day and writes whether the words flow easily or not. An athlete trains according to their schedule, regardless of the weather or their mood. This professional approach removes the decision making that resistance uses to derail you. Tony Robbins takes this further in Awaken the Giant Within by showing you how to take control of your mental and emotional state instead of being controlled by them. Robbins discovered that you can use pattern interrupts, sudden changes in your physical or mental state, to break negative patterns and shift into empowering states instantly. A pattern interrupt might be jumping up and down, changing your breathing pattern, or asking yourself a completely different question. These techniques work because they snap you out of your brain being stuck in a negative loop, and it gives you a chance to respond. His extensive experience on state management shows that your actions and decisions are determined by your state. So learning to control this state that you're in gives you control over your results. When you're in a confident, energized state, you make different choices than when you're tired or fearful. Robbins teaches specific techniques for creating empowering beliefs and associating positive emotions with the actions that move you forward. So when you combine Pressfield's professional approach with Tony Robbins' state management techniques, you can push through resistance while maintaining the emotional energy to do your best work. This means you're not just forcing yourself to work through blocks, you're actively managing your internal states to make the breakthrough work feel natural and energizing. Robert Greene studied the lives of history's greatest masters and discovered a hidden pattern that explains how ordinary people transform into experts who seem to operate on a completely different level. The book Mastery isn't just about talent or luck. It's about following a specific sequence that Greene found in everyone from Leonardo da Vinci to modern innovators, and this sequence is completely learnable. What I want to show you is how Greene mapped out the exact steps that every master has taken throughout history and how you can apply the same framework to whatever field you're working in. Most people skip the crucial early phases and try to jump straight into creative work, which is why they plateau early and never reach their true expertise in the field. Here's how this plays out in real life. Someone wants to become a great writer, so they immediately start working on their novel without spending years studying the fundamentals of storytelling, character development, and prose. Or they want to start a business without understanding the basics of sales, marketing, and operations. This shortcut approach feels productive, but actually limits how far you can go because you're building on a weak foundation. This can be particularly tricky in today's era of AI because we have so much access to these quick answers without building that foundation first. Green's research shows that mastery requires three distinct phases: apprenticeship, where you learn the fundamentals; creative active phase, where you experiment; and mastery, where you finally connect different fields for breakthrough insights. The apprenticeship phase comes first and involves submitting yourself to learning the basic skills and knowledge of your chosen field. The creative active phase is where you start experimenting with your own ideas and developing your unique approach. The final mastery phase is where you can innovate by combining insights from your field with knowledge from completely different domains. The apprenticeship phase is where most people give up because it involves thousands of hours of what seems like boring fundamentals, but this is where you build the foundation for everything that comes later. During this phase, you're not trying to be original or creative. You're focused on absorbing everything you can from people who are already successful in your field. Green found that masters develop what he calls fingertip feel, an intuitive understanding that comes from deep practice, and it allows them to see patterns others miss. This intuitive grasp develops after thousands of hours of focused practice and allows masters to make decisions that seem almost magical to outsiders. True mastery comes from embracing the long apprenticeship, seeking mentors, and eventually learning to see connections across different fields that create innovative solutions. This patient approach to skill development, combined with all the previous mental frameworks, creates a complete system for achieving expertise that goes far beyond what most people think is possible. These 9 books together create a complete operating system for your mind. You get frameworks for changing your core beliefs about ability, managing your daily state, and achieving true mastery in what matters to you. The real transformation happens when you stop treating these as separate ideas and start seeing them as interconnected tools that amplify each other's effects on your thinking and performance. Start with whatever book addresses your biggest and current challenge, but remember that lasting change comes from building this complete framework over time, not from trying to apply everything at once.